Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to go through my top 7 tips for quantitative reasoning in the UCAT. And make sure to stick to the end to see my best tip for quantitative reasoning. I'm Melvin from Medic Mind, a YouTube channel. Quantitative reasoning is one of the most divisive UCAT sections. Those that love maths enjoy it, those that don't find it a challenge. But with careful planning and preparation, anyone can be successful. Even if you love maths, familiarizing yourself with the questions is still a must. So regardless of your level of confidence in maths, you can find our top 7 tips here. Tip number 1 is to practice each quantitative reasoning topic. Like every other part of the UCAT, there are multiple different question types in this section too. This includes ratios, percentages, graphs, simple and complex calculation. For some of these, students might find it easy, for others, some hard. But it's important that you practice every question type so you know what to expect and identify areas where you may struggle. Many students find it useful to keep a list of question types that they've come across, so that you can make sure that you've covered the content of each type. This will allow you to make note of the ones you particularly struggle with. And if there's anything you find particularly difficult, then one of our one-to-one tutors may be able to help you with some tailored lessons. Tip number 2 is to find appropriate practice material. There are lots of different resources out there for practicing quantitative reasoning, and we've written a whole article on those available and some books that may be useful linked in the description. But be careful with the ones you choose. The ISC 1250 book, for example, is often found to be more difficult than the actual test. So choose diligently so that you have adequate questions to practice, but also not to overwhelm yourself. Tip number 3 is to master the calculator. Being proficient in using the on-screen calculator can have a massive impact on both your timings and accuracy for this section. It is key that you practice it prior to the test so you know how to use it effectively. But as many of you will find when practicing with this calculator, it is quite slow. The fact is, the on-screen calculator really impacts your ability to use it compared to the physical calculator or the one on your phone. This is why mastering it is key to both speed and success. We have a whole article on the UCAT calculator to provide you with further tips, linked in the description below. Tip number 4 is to know your strengths and weaknesses. As mentioned at the beginning, some people struggle with maths more than others. If this is the case, you need to make sure you do not neglect this section. Just a few hours of carefully structured practice looking at ratios, percentages, and practicing your mental maths can make a huge difference. Knowing which type of questions you're stronger at is also useful. This means that come exam day, you can prioritize your time on these questions. If you are still finding it hard, then perhaps some input from one of our one-to-one tutors could have a positive impact on your preparation. Again, it is important not to neglect a certain question type just because you find it hard. As with all UCAT sections, you need to try your best to be consistent across all the questions. Tip number 5 for quantitative reasoning is mental maths. Just as important as knowing when to use a calculator, it's important when not to use it. Using mental maths instead of inputting numbers onto the calculator could save you time on questions. If this happens over a number of questions, it could save you enough time to ensure that you finish the section. Spending a little bit of time practicing your mental maths and timetables can really go a long way to help speed up your performance. And this is one of the key things you can do ahead of the UCAT to improve your quantitative reasoning score. It is important to remember that the UCAT is not negatively marked. So if you manage to estimate a rough figure and you run out of time, select the one closest to that. It is critical that you leave no question unanswered, even if it's your best guess. Tip number 6 for quantitative reasoning is to write down calculations mid-steps. The UCAT calculator does not have an answer function, so it can happen sometimes that you lose numbers during complex, longer calculations. To avoid this happening, it can be worth making a quick note of the mid-step numbers on your whiteboard, so to prevent this happening to you. Once again, this reiterates why it's so important that you get used to the calculator before the test. you need to know what question types it will and won't be helpful for. Tip number 7 for quantitative reasoning is to use the flagging function. If you are struggling with one question, do not get caught up on it and make sure to use the flagging function. Because quantitative reasoning questions do not have quite as long questions as other sections, it's easier to come back to them later. And hopefully this allows you to be able to pick up where you left off of on a difficult question and finish it at the end. Regardless of how much you enjoy maths, you can still score very highly in the UCAT Quantitative Reasoning. Try not to let your previous math grades put you off on this section. The questions are at a level of a good secondary school pass, so you won't be asked to do anything exceptionally difficult in the exam. Our best advice is to review the basics, practice them, and learn a few time-saving tips. Thanks for watching this video. We hope you learned a thing or two about the UCAT Quantitative Reasoning. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Make sure to like the video and share this with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Medic Mind YouTube channel to never miss a video.